Chinedu met Blessing on a hot Tuesday evening in the city. One of those evenings when Lagos traffic crawled like it was tired of life itself. He was standing beside a roadside kiosk, counting the last coins in his pocket, wondering whether to buy bread or recharge card. Blessing was beside him, waiting to buy pure water. Their eyes met accidentally. There was no lightning, no dramatic music. Just two tired souls briefly noticing each other in a city that rarely noticed anyone. "Sorry," Chinedu muttered, stepping aside. "It's okay," Blessing replied, smiling softly. That smile stayed with him longer than he expected. They talked for barely 5 minutes, but it felt like they had known each other for years. She told him her name, Blessing, from Imo State. He said his name, Chinedu, from Anambra. They laughed about how both their parents expected big things from them, while the city was busy humbling them daily. There was no exchange of promises that night. No flirting that crossed the line, just two young people talking honestly without pretending to be more than they were. And that was how everything began. Their love didn't grow in fancy restaurants or air-conditioned cinemas. It grew on long walks because transport money was scarce. It grew on shared bread, torn carefully into two equal parts so nobody would feel cheated. It grew on nights when power failed, and they sat outside under the weak glow of a streetlight, talking about the future like it was a place they would surely reach. Chinedu was struggling. Everyone could see it. He had finished school with big dreams, but dreams don't pay rent. Jobs rejected him politely at first, then rudely. Business ideas failed before they even started. Sometimes he would sit quietly, staring at nothing, ashamed that life wasn't moving the way he planned. Blessing noticed everything. She noticed how his shoulders dropped when he thought nobody was watching. She noticed how he pretended to be strong but clenched his fists when bills came. She noticed, and she stayed. "Why are you not angry with me?" Chinedu asked her one night as they sat on a wooden bench outside her compound. "Angry for what?" she asked. "For being poor," he said quietly. Blessing looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "Being poor is not a crime. Giving up is." That was the first night Chinedu cried in front of her. People talked. Of course they did. "Blessing, you are wasting your time. That boy has nothing. Love does not pay bills." Her aunties spoke without mercy. "So you want to marry poverty? Is he the only man in Nigeria?" Blessing's mother didn't shout. She didn't insult Chinedu. She only sighed the way tired women do when they have seen life long enough to fear love without security. "My daughter," she said one evening, sitting on the edge of the bed, "this boy you are following, what exactly does he have?" Blessing hesitated. "Hope," she replied. Her mother looked at her for a long moment. "Hope does not feed a home. Think well." Blessing thought and still chose Chinedu. Her cousins laughed behind her back, calling her Mrs. Suffering. Friends stopped sugarcoating their opinions. "Blessing, be serious." Anambra men are proud. When they make money, they forget where they started. Each sentence landed like a stone. Blessing heard them all. She just didn't obey them. When he had nothing to eat, she cooked. When he was tired of trying, she reminded him why he started. When the world treated him like a failure, she treated him like a man who hadn't arrived yet. Sometimes, she contributed the little money she made selling clothes online to support his business ideas. Sometimes she lied to her family, saying she was saving when she had spent everything helping him print flyers, make calls, or attend interviews. She never complained. Not because it was easy, but because love, to her, was a decision. There were nights when Chinedu would hold her hand and whisper promises. "One day you will enjoy," he would say. "One day I will make you proud. One day my people will thank you for standing by me." Blessing believed him. Not because he sounded confident, but because she had seen his heart. She had seen how hard he tried. She had seen how ashamed he felt collecting help. She had seen how grateful he was for every little thing. Their love was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was honest. They prayed together, laughed together, suffered together. And in those moments of nothingness, they felt rich. Her mother began introducing her to better men. Men with cars, stable jobs, and loud confidence. Men who spoke down to her, who wanted her gratitude instead of her heart. Each time Blessing declined politely. "I'm seeing someone," she would say. Her family's disappointment became obvious. Meals grew quiet, conversations became tense. Sometimes her mother cried at night thinking Blessing didn't hear. But Blessing did. And still, she stayed. What hurt her most was not the insults. It was the doubt they tried to plant inside her. What if they were right? What if Chinedu never made it? What if she wasted her life? Those thoughts visited her often, especially on nights when Chinedu was unusually quiet, his worries heavier than usual. But each time doubt knocked, she remembered why she chose him. She remembered his honesty, his humility, his effort. She remembered that love to her was not about arriving, it was about walking together. When Chinedu sensed the pressure, he offered her a way out. "If you want to leave," he said one night, not meeting her eyes, "I'll understand." Blessing looked at him sharply. "Do you want me to leave?" He shook his head slowly. "No, but I don't want to destroy your future." She took his hands firmly. "My future is my choice," she said, "and I choose you." That was the night love stopped being just a feeling. It became defiance. The breakthrough came without warning. One week, Chinedu was still running around the city begging clients to listen. The next, his phone would not stop ringing. A deal he had almost given up on suddenly worked. One connection led to another. One payment turned into many. The business that had mocked him for years finally bowed. He called Blessing immediately that morning, voice trembling with disbelief and joy. "Blessing, it's happening," he said, laughter and tears tangled together. "We're finally making it." Blessing smiled so hard her cheeks ached. She remembered every sleepless night, every skipped meal, every moment she'd whispered encouragement, while tears hid in the corners of her eyes. "I knew you could," she whispered. "I told you I believed in you." The money began flowing. First a little, then enough to rent a better apartment, buy proper furniture, and eat, without worrying if tomorrow would bring hunger. Chinedu could now call clients confidently, pay employees on time, and even dress sharply without hesitation. The city began to notice him. Not just as a struggling young man, but as someone who had arrived. People who ignored him before suddenly remembered his name. Old friends returned with forced laughter. Distant relatives began calling. "Chairman," "boss," "my brother." Respect followed money like a shadow. Blessing watched it all with quiet joy. She remembered the nights he cried on her shoulder, the days he couldn't afford transport, the times she had gone hungry so he could eat. Seeing him rise felt like victory, for both of them. "We made it," she said one evening, resting her head on his chest. "God finally answered us." Chinedu smiled and nodded. "Yes, it's our turn now." Blessing believed him. She started dreaming again, this time without fear. She imagined a big wedding, a peaceful home, children who would never know hunger. For the first time in a long while, she slept without worrying about tomorrow. The storm was over, or so she thought. The first visit to Chinedu's family house was supposed to be joyful. Blessing wore her best simple dress, not flashy, not proud, just neat. She carried gifts with both hands, greeting elders with respect the way she was taught. Her heart beat fast, but she smiled, hopeful. This was the family she had prayed for, the people she believed would finally welcome her as their own. Chinedu held her hand as they entered the sitting room. "This is Blessing," he said proudly, "the woman I want to marry." Mama Chinedu was excited. "Beautiful young lady, hope you will make a good wife. Sit, please," Mama Chinedu said, offering her a sit. Blessing sat joyfully. Then questions began slowly. "What does your father do? Where exactly are you from? Which village?" Blessing answered calmly, respectfully. She had nothing to hide. Then came the question that changed everything. "Which state did you say you are from?" Uncle Okafor asked. "Imo State, sir," Blessing replied. The room shifted. Someone hissed quietly. Another person whispered something Blessing could not fully hear, but she caught the tone: disapproval, alarm. Mama Chinedu's face hardened. "Imo," she repeated, as if tasting something bitter. "Why Imo?" Blessing glanced at Chinedu, confused. He avoided her eyes. The whispers grew louder. "She is not one of us. Does he know what he's doing?" Blessing's ears burned. Her chest tightened. She had faced hunger, insults and doubt, but never this kind of rejection. This one had no logic, no explanation. Just no. Mama Chinedu stood up slowly. "Chinedu," she said firmly, "we need to talk." They walked into another room, leaving Blessing alone with the whispers. That was when she realized something terrible. Poverty had never been the problem. Her origin was. When Chinedu returned, his face was pale. Mama Chinedu spoke openly now, no longer pretending. "This girl is not from our land," she said. "You cannot marry her." Blessing felt her heart crack. "But Ma," she said softly, "I love your son. I have been with him from the beginning." Mama Chinedu waved her hand dismissively. "Love does not change blood," she replied. "This is not about you. It is about us. We are discussing as family." The meeting ended without resolution. Blessing stood up quietly and greeted them again, forcing respect into a place that had no space for her. No one responded. Outside, she stood for a long time staring at the gate, the same gate she had walked through with hope hours earlier. Chinedu followed her later. "They need time," he said weakly as they drove back home. "It will be fine," he assured her. Blessing nodded, forcing a smile. But deep inside, she understood something painful. In that house, being from Imo State was a sin worse than poverty. And love for the first time was not enough. Blessing found out she was pregnant on a quiet morning, the kind of morning that usually carries good news. She stared at the test for a long time, her hands shaking, not from fear, but from hope. After all the years of struggle, this felt like a sign, a new beginning, proof that their love was real, rooted, permanent. She smiled through tears. Chinedu would be happy. His family would finally see reason. A child would soften hearts. That was what she told herself. When she told Chinedu, she expected him to lift her, to laugh, to thank God loudly the way men did when good news arrived. Instead, he sat down slowly, his face draining of color. "Are you sure?" he asked. Yes, she replied, forcing a smile. Very sure. He nodded, but the joy never came. He hugged her quickly like someone late for an appointment and said, "Let me talk to my people." When Chinedu called her mother to spread the goodness, she didn't shout. She laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "So this is how she wants to trap my son," she said. "With pregnancy." Blessing suggested he go alone and talk to them. Maybe that would make a difference. Mama Chinedu sat at the center, her wrapper tight around her waist, her face hard with decision. Papa Chinedu sat beside her, quiet but present. Uncle Okafor cleared his throat loudly, as if preparing to pronounce judgment. "This matter has gone too far," he began. "A girl from Imo has entered our son's life and brought shame." Someone nodded. Another voice added, "She is using pregnancy to hold him." They all agreed, without evidence, without mercy. Chinedu sat among them like a boy, not a man. The success that had made him bold in the city shrank inside that room. Here money meant nothing. Tradition ruled. "She must go," Mama Chinedu said firmly. "This relationship must end." "But she has been with me from the beginning," Chinedu said weakly. "She suffered with me." Mama Chinedu turned sharply toward him. "Did we tell you to suffer with her?" she asked. "Is suffering a reason to destroy your future?" The room hummed with approval. Then came the threat. "If you continue with her," Uncle Okafor said, leaning forward, "you will no longer be our son." Silence fell. Papa Chinedu finally spoke, his voice low but final. "You will lose your inheritance. You will no longer be part of the family. There are so many beautiful girls from this community you can choose from, not some girl from Imo State. We don't want our blood." "Diluted," his mother added. Chinedu's heart pounded. Everything he had worked for suddenly felt fragile. Respect, family identity, everything hung in the balance. No one asked about Blessing's feelings. No one mentioned the child. No one considered love. Decisions were made. Orders were given. Blessing's life was rearranged in her absence. When Chinedu left the meeting, his legs felt heavy. His phone buzzed with messages from Blessing, missed calls, worried texts. "Are you okay? Please call me." He stared at the screen, knowing that one conversation would change everything. After Chinedu returned, he became unusual. Days passed without direction. Chinedu became distant. Conversations were rushed. Messages went unanswered. Chinedu stopped mentioning marriage. Blessing watched him slowly pull away, confused and frightened, but still hopeful. Blessing stood in front of the mirror longer than usual that morning. Her hand rested on her stomach. The bump was no longer something she could explain away with loose clothes or hope. It was real, growing, unavoidable. Fear tightened her chest, but beneath it lived a fragile excitement. Maybe now, she thought, maybe this would finally push Chinedu to do the right thing. That evening, she met him. She did not shout. She did not accuse. She spoke like a woman still in love. "Chinedu, my stomach is showing. Please," she said softly, "come and see my people. Let us do this the right way." For a moment he said nothing. He looked away. That silence broke her more than any insult. Finally he spoke, slow, careful, rehearsed. "I can't," he said. "Why?" Her voice trembled. "My family will never agree. I can't marry you against their wish." The words fell like stones. Blessing laughed once, a short, empty sound. "Against their wish," she repeated. "So what about me? What about what we planned? What about this child?" Chinedu stood up. He paced. He avoided her eyes. "You know my people," he said. "You know how they are. Please understand." Understand. That word snapped something inside her. Her voice broke, then her control. "So I stood by you for nothing?" she cried. "I sold my things for you. I skipped food for you. I defended you when everyone warned me." Her tears came fast, hot, uncontrollable. "You promised me marriage. You promised me a home." "I know, but I can't go against my family wish. I don't mind paying you off," he said casually. Blessing went ballistic. "Paying me off?" "Chinedu, did you just say you would pay me off? After staying with you for 5 good years, and you are appreciating me with shame." "Blessing, please stop overreacting," he said. "Overreacting, you said?" "Oh my God. You don't consider my family's reaction of me being pregnant out of wedlock. You don't consider the shame I will go through, and you're telling me I'm overreacting," Blessing said with her eyes welled up. "Okay, how about you get rid of the pregnancy instead? You are just 6 weeks gone," Chinedu ruthlessly asked. Blessing couldn't believe her ears. Blessing grabbed her stomach as if the baby could hear the argument. "Do you know what you are doing to me?" she screamed. "You are abandoning me alive." Her knees weakened. She sank into the chair, sobbing uncontrollably, hysteric, broken, shattered. Chinedu stood there, silent, defeated by his own cowardice. That night, Blessing walked home alone. Her dreams had collapsed. Her trust was destroyed. And the love she believed in had chosen family approval over her life. Few days passed, no calls from Chinedu, no response to her messages. She believed he's under pressure and will come around soon. Unknown to her, Chinedu had already travelled to his hometown and got married. His wedding was loud. Drums, laughter, gold wrappers, smiles carefully rehearsed and generously photographed. His bride was beautiful, polished, approved. His mother danced harder than anyone else, her joy loud and unapologetic. She had won. The elders nodded with satisfaction. The whispers that once followed his name were buried under music and food. They said he had done well. They said he had chosen wisely. They said his future was secure. Chinedu nodded and smiled like a man playing a role written by other people. Blessing had just woken up from sleep when she saw her missed calls, and on checking her WhatsApp, she saw a mutual already posted Chinedu wedding pictures. She ran mad. How? When? Why? She kept asking herself. The screams that left her chest were heartbreaking. Her mother rushed to her asking what was wrong. She only showed her the wedding pictures with shaking hands. "Mama, Mama, I'm dreaming, right?" Blessing held her mother hiccuping in tears. "It's okay, Blessing, this is not the end of the world. We warned you. Now you see we're being faithful had taken you," her mother said, in between anger and concern. Blessing was pacing around in hurt and disbelief, stomping her feet in confusion, and just then, the little live growing in her slipped out in hot liquid. She held her stomach in pains as if moulding them back together. Her mother screamed, holding her from failing, and just then it started raining heavily. Blessing ran out. She fell on the ground, weeping profusely. Her mother held her close, whispering words of encouragement. "Oh, Chinedu, with the pains in my heart and blood on my thighs, I cursed you, let the rain bear me witness. You shall never hear the cry of a baby in your home. The pain you caused me this day shall be your portion, forever," Blessing declared. "Mama, it shall never be well with Chinedu. Say Amen," Blessing said. "My child, you're hurting yourself. Please stop." the mother consoled. No, Mama, I want you to say Amen. It shall never be well with Chinedu. Say Amen. Ah, Amen. Amen. It shall never be well with him for making you go through all these, her mother said, trying to help her up. Blessing lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, her arms empty, her heart heavier than it had ever been. The child that had given her strength to endure rejection was gone. With it went the last thread tying her to Chinedu's family. She cried until tears stopped coming, not just for the child, but for the dreams buried with it, for the future that never arrived, for the love that once promised forever and delivered abandonment. Her family mourned with her. They did not blame her. They did not ask questions. They simply stayed. And sometimes, staying is the greatest form of love. Months later, help came from an unexpected place. A distant cousin, Grace, who had been living abroad for years, reached out after hearing Blessing's story. Grace listened quietly, then said something that changed everything. "Come over, start again. You are bigger than this pain." Blessing hesitated. Fear sat heavy in her chest. But hope, small, stubborn hope, stood up again. She accepted. Abroad, life was not easy, but it was fair. No one asked where she was from. No one judged her past. No one reduced her to a rejected woman. She worked, she learned, she grew. The same strength that once fed another man now built her own future. She studied, hustled, and refused to be small. Slowly, Blessing transformed from survivor to force. Confidence replaced shame. Purpose replaced regret. She smiled again, not because life was perfect, but because she had won back herself. Years later, far away in Nigeria, life has not been fair to Chinedu maritally. Their efforts to conceive always prove abortive. Whenever his wife gets pregnant, she always miscarried. His family, once a happy home, now feels empty. Chinedu came with his family to Blessing's hometown, dressed in humility they had never worn before. They begged her parents for forgiveness, their voices heavy with desperation. But they met scorn. "You rejected our daughter when she was alive to you," her father said calmly. "Now you remember forgiveness?" Blessing's younger sister angrily hurled them a dirty water in disgust, ushering them out. Chinedu's family gathered again. This time it was not for celebration, not for weddings, nor for achievements. It was for reflection. A bitter realization of what pride and ignorance had cost them. Chinedu had built his empire. He had wealth, status, and respect from strangers. But inside, the man who once loved Blessing carried a shadow that no money could lift. Peace never stayed. Happiness was measured in silences, in the hollow absence of what had been lost. Chinedu had built his empire. He had wealth, status, and respect from strangers. But inside, the man who once loved Blessing carried a shadow that no money could lift. Peace never stayed. Happiness was measured in silences, in the hollow absence of what had been lost. Mama Chinedu sat quietly in the living room, her hands folded. For the first time, the pride that had fueled so many decisions felt heavy, suffocating. "We should have accepted her," she whispered almost to herself. "We destroyed a woman who loved my son and carried my grandchild. For what?" Papa Chinedu nodded solemnly. Words that could have healed had come too late. Blessing's name was spoken cautiously, reverently, but no amount of politeness could undo the humiliation she had endured. No apology could erase the months of loneliness, the forced silence, the abandonment. Chinedu sat alone one night, scrolling through his phone. Then he saw her. Blessing. Radiant, confident, successful. Pictures of her achievements, her engagement, her laughter, her peace. She looked whole, not bitter. Not broken, and I'm not waiting. Happy. His chest tightened. Regret, raw and merciless, wrapped around his heart. I should have fought, he thought. I should have chosen love over fear. But wishes don't rewrite history. Blessing never saw his regret. She was too busy living. And Chinedu finally understood the cruelest lesson of all. Sometimes, the one you abandon doesn't fall apart, they rise, and leave you behind forever,